There's this moment that happens where you're writing something and you open a Word document for the first time. And as you look, there's this blank page staring back at you, and the cursor is there and it's blinking. It has this sort of rhythm to it. But then you start to put pen to paper, you start typing, and the words just start flowing. And for me, the process is always fun and exciting. It can even be therapeutic. But when I think about my own life, when I'm really honest with myself, as I think about this as a metaphor for life, there are times when what's on the pages of our lives really isn't satisfying. There's pain, disappointment, sometimes even trauma staring back at us. And we're left questioning, we're left wondering, we're left asking, where is Jesus? You know, a lot of the time it's hard to find Jesus anywhere. I mean, that's the truth. Like it is so hard for many of us to see Jesus in, the death of a loved one or the suffering of children. There's all kinds of things we could talk about that just are like, how is God anywhere in that? And what I try to remember is that I want God's solidarity with me. I want God's empathy more than I want God's manipulative control. That when I'm suffering, God can be in the suffering with me. That God can invite me to become the kind of person who actually feels what is real about the suffering. And then from that place of weakness, from that place of vulnerability, from that place of pain, God says, I'm feeling it with you. I ache with you. Let's journey through it together. When I finally had a realization that I was going to do a book on Jesus, I really wanted to look at his humanity. How does his humanity inform my humanity? And what dawned on me one day, I had this moment where it's like, wait a second. The thing that unites all of humanity, including Jesus, is pain. Like even Jesus experienced pain. And this is a negative thing. So you can be perfect, the incarnation of God, and you still experience what is absolutely, utterly imperfect pain. I don't know how to talk about pain without expressing my own experience of it. And that's really what this book does. I step into my challenges as a kid. I grew up in a very hurtful situation. We were poor. My parents were divorced when I was a toddler. There was violence and abuse that eventually entered into my situation. These are all part of how God has shaped me into the kind of human I'm becoming. And so I kind of felt like if I'm gonna invite people to think about their own pain, I really need to process mine in a fresh way. So why hope and pain going together? Well, hope is what roots our pain in the reality that God hasn't given up on us. And so we can have joy, we can find love, we can find meaning, we can see beauty, we can be creative. And it's only because in a world of brokenness and pain, we know that that doesn't get the final word, that hope propels us towards what God wants for this world and for our lives, and says that future thing. Bring some of that into the here and now. Live some of that in the here and now. God is the best at leveraging and tilting pain towards something obviously beautiful. And that should boggle our minds. Pain should not have refining power. But I believe because of God's Spirit and grace at work in the world, there is still something that invites me to become refined and open and available to God's beautiful work in my life. I wrote the book for anyone who knows what it's like to live in a pain-filled world and desires to become more alive, awake, and alert to the movement of God in the world. And my conviction is that Jesus of Nazareth shows us that kind of life. And our invitation is to emulate Jesus's life. Jesus shows us, puts on display how to walk courageously through suffering and out the other side resurrected. And as I say in the book, resurrection is the most human thing of all, because it's when you're human finally and forever. And so I want folks to know that hope is real, and pain isn't something we have to ignore. Pain is something we can embrace and walk with God and others with this pain, because it is through pain that hope works itself out towards transformation.